Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies, owner and principal. No whiteboard today. This is just going to be a basic uh, conversation about why IoT is so hard to enforce in today's network. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had a conversation with a client and we were going over their ICE implementation, and we were talking about, you know, how do I protect IoT devices, basically devices that are on the network that don't do 802.1x, and they have a plethora of devices on their network. And I usually see this in hospitals and other areas, but let's just say just IoT in general. Well, why is it so hard to enforce, policy on IoT devices? It really comes down to like a couple things. One, you don't know what's on your network. That's usually the main one. Okay, I have a whole bunch of devices. I have no visibility on what those devices are, and I can't enforce anything because I don't know what's on the network. This is where ICE comes in because you can plug those devices in. ICE can see it. So you can see some attributes, and then you kind of determine what they are, and then you can create a profile on it to enforce some type of policy. Now, the next level up from that, and the next problem is I don't know how those devices communicate. Some people want to have I would say, an infrastructure where they are minimizing what things are allowed to actually communicate with. Here's the problem. And this actually goes into ACI, application centric mode, why I don't see a lot of people doing that. Um, you don't know how your devices communicate. What does the scanner actually need to talk to? What does the security systems or security cameras need to talk to? What does an EKG need to talk to? What does, your temperature gauges need to talk to? Well, if you don't know how they communicate, you're never going to be able to actually do granular policy in ICE, whether it's from a DACL perspective or whether it's from a TrustSec perspective, SGACL perspective, like SGACLs, basically, security group ACLs, because you don't know how they flow. And I like to call it asset intelligence. Basically, I don't know how this IoT device communicates, so I don't have the intelligence enough to make a security policy that maps the way these devices communicate. And because of that, I might have profiled it. I might have, gave it a group tag. I may have gave it a generic DACL, but it's not locking it down to what it only needs to talk to. So the next question, logical question is, well, Don, how do you fix that? Well, this is where you got to use some third party integrations with ICE to get it to work. One of the biggest ones I've seen are the biggest ones I've seen that are kind of competitors to each other. It depends on what industry you're going into. There are Medigate and there's Order, right? And how they work is they're going to work with NetFlow or IPFix protocol, but NetFlow in general. They're going to have a tap or a span port to the sensor, and then that sensor is going to pick up all that traffic flow information, and then via PX grid integration, they are going to send that information over to ICE from a, hey, this is what the device is. It does profiling a lot better than ICE. ICE can do phenomenal profiling, but Order and Mitigate does it better, right? And if you have that in your environment, you might as well take advantage of those components to help ICE actually enforce your policy a lot better, because it will give you granular attributes that you can tie to a policy. And then you can say, okay, I know for a fact this is an EKG machine because Order told me it was an EKG machine. And based on the traffic flow, the net flow data that gets sent to Order or mitigate, I can enforce better policy. I can create a DACL based on the net flow information that Order seen. Okay, I see that this EKG machine only, and I'm using EKG as an example because I just finished talking to a hospital. I see that this EKG machine communicates like this. All right, so create a DACL based on that communication flow. And then I apply it to my authorization policy to say, okay, you're going to get this DACL because Order told me or Mitigate told me that you communicate like this. So the DACL matches to your communication function. Now, any device that fits that EKG profile will always communicate that way based on the DACL. Same thing with security group tags. If you move it up a level and you say, okay, I'm gonna do a TrustSec policy, well, order, create me a SGACL, and then I will go to my TrustSec policy and say, okay, I'm going to attach this ACL to this source and destination pair. Kind of gets the guesswork out of how does my devices communicate. And how that correlates to ACI application centric mode is if you don't know how your devices communicate, you can't really create the appropriate contract to tie to the EPG so that you're only letting the traffic that needs to be through, right? But this is an ICE conversation, not ACI conversation. That's a totally different technology, totally different thought process in terms of enforcement. But ICE does integrate with ACI, with the security group tags and stuff like that. So this was a brief conversation of why it is so hard to enforce and implement and really secure IoT devices because of two things. One, you don't know what's on your network. This is where ICE can help you. And two, once you have ICE in the environment, you don't know how those devices communicate. So you can't really lock down the policy as much because the traffic flow is unknown. And you can do things like use order or mitigate or some kind of third party that gives you that traffic flow information, kind of allows you to create a policy in ICE. Now, order does it automatically. If you use something like Cisco Secured Network Analytics or StealthWatch, was what it used to be called, you'd have to print out that report or look at the traffic flow and then manually create that policy itself. Now, Cisco, if you ever watch this video, you probably should implement that in future versions of Secure Network Analytics. Is just, hey, I see the net flow data. It's telling me how it's communicate. I need to be able to create a DACL or be able to automatically create a DACL in ICE or a SGACL in ICE so that I could further enhance my enforcement based on my authorization policy. Again, hopefully this has been informative. If you need help implementing something like network access control via Cisco Identity Services Engine, because that's what I was trained in. That's what I know. I'm going to leave the link in the description. That's going to be to a discovery call to see where you are in your journey of ICE. You may have just bought it. You may have implemented a little bit of it and you're just trying to get better. You may need to assess it because something's broken and you're trying to bring somebody third party in to look at the environment and point and show you, hey, this can be done better, or you need to completely rip this out because this is wrong. That's the whole point of the discovery call. I can't help you if I don't know what you're doing. So this is not a sales call. So hopefully you hit that link and just start that discovery process, and maybe we'll have a project, maybe we won't. Either way, we leave as friends. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it was very informative. Have a good day.